And we're live. Are we live, boys? We're live. This is an excellent thing. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our little chat about the Leadership Academy. With thanks to our friends at Deloitte, we have an excellent view of the city of Warsaw, if you care to look at the map. My name is Ralph Talmont, and I'll be talking to Professor Cezary Wójcik, who is the founder and academic director of the Leadership Academy. Czarek, it is great to see you again.
Thank you. Good to have. Thanks for having me.
Center for Leadership. It is an interesting organization. You've been running it now for a little while, not
Yes.
too long,
Yes.
but you've had some experience, and you've had one year's schooling so far?
So it's more complicated, but before I answer your question, I just want to welcome everyone. Thank you for your time, for being with us. And what I also want to say is that if there is anyone who wants to apply to the Academy, what's going to happen now is something that you will not see in the Academy. In the Academy, we don't have talks like this.
Okay? Oh yes, no talking heads.
Yes, we create rather experience. So this is just a completely different format. So as far as the Center for Leadership, I don't want to talk too much about the organization itself. It's an organization which is a social good, as we call it, organization. We want to make an impact and contribute to making Poland and the world a better place. And one of our, not the only one, but one of our most important initiatives is the Leadership Academy for Poland, where we've been able to mobilize a lot of organizations, a lot of people, to create a space for people from Poland, but also from outside Poland, to get a Harvard education, a world-class education here in the heart of our country. And we are very proud of it. And yes.
And it's going well.
It's going very well, and we have very positive feedback. And we also believe that we are doing something important, because the Academy itself is really very, very interesting, and creates a very interesting experience. But also we do think that we contribute to creating world-class education in Poland, and we believe it's very, very important.
Excellent, excellent. We'll be chatting about various aspects of the Academy for the next 20-30 minutes. You can send us questions. Over this side, if I'm not mistaken, over this side, we have a moderated chat on our page. So please take a minute to formulate a question that you'd like to shoot our way, and our producer over here, greetings, will be standing by to send it over to us. With luck, if technology works, we will receive it on the screen, and then we will address it. If you're viewing it on the Facebook page, please shoot us a comment, and we will receive it that way. The thing that I find fascinating about the Leadership Academy is that you don't actually teach skills. If you don't teach skills, what do you teach that's more important than skills?
Yeah, it's very very interesting. We don't focus on skills really, and what we teach is really difficult to say. And I really tell you, all of the people that graduated the Academy have difficulties telling to other people what they've really gone through.
The Tao that you can describe is not the real Tao.
Yes, but I can tell you a little story. Before the first edition of the Academy, one of the candidates who was thinking about applying to the Academy, he was, by the way, a professor at the Polish Academy of Science, a physicist, and he asked me, look, if I apply to the Academy, what can I expect to learn? And then I said, look, I know a lot of people who graduate or finish a program that we are about to launch, they say they've learned wisdom. And it's really fascinating, even for me as an educator, because it's a really interesting question. How do you teach wisdom? And also because we don't really know what wisdom is at the end, but we somehow feel what it could be. But when I think about the program and what people are going through, I think we create a space for them where they can reconsider their assumptions, key assumptions about leadership on the one hand, and key assumptions about themselves. And this space, this reflection about those assumptions really create shifts in their thinking, but also in their behavior later on. And in most cases, it's a very productive, and it's a good shift. They appreciate it a lot.
Given that we live in a world where the only constant is ever present and accelerating change,
yes.
Learning in order to obtain wisdom is really the key strategic decision that you can make in your life.
Yes, but also it's interesting what you have said, because you said the only constant is change itself. And it is related to the question of skills, because sometimes, a lot of programs concentrate on skills. So they teach, for example, if you want to, build a team, you need to do this, or if you want to create an organization, you need to do this somehow. And it's important. And I'm not saying it's not important, but it is also misleading. Sometimes I'm being asked by the participants, for example, questions like, when I manage an organization or when I manage a team, how should I do this? Should I be more directive to people, or should I be more democratic, for example? And then I ask them a question. Tell me, is it better to turn left or right? And then they think about a little bit about this question, and they say, look, I don't know how to answer this question because it depends where I'm going in some ways. So, and it's an important part of increasing people's capacity to lead. The important part of increasing the capacity to lead is increasing their freedom of actions. So that they behave a certain way or another way depending on the work that they have to do, and having this flexibility. And the world is bringing a lot of change, so you need this flexibility. Sometimes you have to be this, or sometimes you have to be that, whatever the situation demands. And this is, I think, what we do. We increase this space for freedom for people.
Seems to me that probably the most important, or certainly a key strategic quality in a leader is a healthy imagination.
Yes, so this is also an important topic, especially when it comes to organizations. But imagination is really, really important. We can talk about it probably in more details.
We will pick this up in a minute.
Yes, but imagination is important too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. While we're waiting for your questions, if I might just drop in a Twitter handle for you guys, at C4L_org. That's the Twitter handle for the Center for Leadership. You will find Czarek at that handle. You will find me at Ralph Talmont, easily enough. So you can also shoot us questions on Twitter if you so desire. The definition of a leader, the definition of leadership is a really tricky, slippery subject. It often brings up images of men, it's usually men,
yes,
in dark suits, standing on, hilltops, crying, yes, this way.
Yes.
Leaders, followers. There's a sort of a predefined relationship.
Yes.
And I think that's too shallow for the modern world. I think the world needs a new definition of leadership,
yes,
something that doesn't simply espouse to creating a world of leaders and followers, but a new relationship where there's the word responsibility possibly comes in a lot more often.
Yes. So there are two elements to that problem. First of all, we quite often don't realize that we don't really know what leadership is. We have conversations somehow among friends or in the school or in panel discussions, and people usually use a different notion of leadership. And when I ask sometimes people come for a leadership class, for example, and I ask them a question, have you ever thought about what leadership is? Mm-hmm. And quite often people realize, actually, I have never thought about this. You know, usually people associate leadership with something positive, with something good, with something powerful, you know, depending on the person. But we really spend little time thinking about what leadership is. And this is also a distinctive feature of the Academy, because we spend a lot of time on it. And we do present people with a different notion of leadership. If I just tell you now what we think about this, it will be very shallow in some ways, because you, in the Academy, you just see it somehow.
Learning by osmosis.
Yes, but the most we introduce two critical distinctions. The first distinction is between authority and leadership. People don't make these distinctions quite often. Sometimes they say, for example, a leadership of organization or leadership of a country. Mm-hmm. And what they really mean is not leadership, but they mean people in high positions of authority. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the second critical distinction is between the position and activity. So quite often people associate leadership with the position, whereas we understand leadership as activity. And if you make those two distinctions and you see that leadership is an activity, irrespectively whether you have formal or informal authority, you know, that changes a lot. Mm-hmm. Then you start seeing a lot of leaders around that you did not see as leaders before.
It's about the context, isn't it?
Yes. And you start seeing people that you thought were leaders in a different eye, with different eyes, and you don't see them as leaders anymore. It's a dramatic shift for many people, well, and a positive one.
It's a reflection of the shift of, to use a hackneyed phrase, of consciousness that appears to be happening out there, you know, in the world, in terms of how people relate to the idea of work, and how people relate to the idea of the workplace.
Yes.
There seems to be a very, very dynamic situation in terms of redefining leadership itself. Perhaps one of the key functions of leadership is to redefine leadership on an ongoing basis.
Yes. Yes. By the way, I liked your word relate. Mm. You know, how people relate to workplace, how people relate to the world in general. That's a very, very important element.
We're not in the 19th century anymore.
We're not in the 19th century. Although I also, you know, usually try to cautious people, because there is a tendency for many of us, including myself, to think that the world is changing so fast. All of these changes are happening. And therefore we need a different type of leadership. And I try to cautious other people and also myself, because as we do see that the world is changing a lot and very quickly, but there's one thing that does not change so quickly.
Us.
The nature of a human being. Mm-hmm. The nature of a human being. Mm-hmm. And when you think about the leaderships, you know, it's close to this space, you know, the nature of a human being. It does not change. So I think a lot of thoughts about leadership that we could, you know, take from the past, including from the ancient philosophy. By the way, we have readings from, you know, by Plato and Seneca in the Academy. You can learn a lot, and it's still applicable, it's still practical, and it's still right.
Well, the Stoics are perennial bestsellers on Amazon, so really there has to be a reason for it.
Yes.
Maybe we can shift gears a little and talk about the mechanics of the Academy. Perhaps a couple of words to explain to the gathered multitudes. There are millions of you out there, we hope, millions. How many? Three people? No, 3 million. No, somewhere in between 3 million and 3 people. It's good. It's good. We're doing fine. Let's maybe explain a little about the idea behind the Academy, because I get naturally attracted to big ideas and cool things where learning goes on. Most people, I suspect, are of a similar mind, but it is, you know, good to have a little bit more detail.
Yes. About the Academy.
How does it work?
In what sense? What do you mean?
Where do you start? You know, applications are open. Applications are open, incidentally, and they will be open until the 20th of June.
Of June,
right?
Yes.
And I understand a number of applications have already come in. So if you're thinking about it, please make sure that you do sign up. But say I apply, say I'm chosen. What happens then?
Okay, so first I'll say a few words about the application itself. First you register. That's the first step, and then you get the application form. And the application form is quite demanding. So if you really want to do it well, you need to spend some time thinking, because questions are not easy. So it's good to take a couple of days thinking about the application and then write it down. And then we select from all the applications people that we take for interviews. Not everyone gets to the interviews. We can't interview everyone, even though there are a lot of really good candidates that are applying to the academy, and we respect their work. And then we have interviews. And in the interview, it's about half an hour. We talk to the person. We talk about what she or he wrote in the application, but also about some, we have other questions. We have other questions too. And then there is a final selection. And once people get to the academy, they immediately engaged in the content of the academy, because they start getting readings. So the work in the academy starts before the program starts, the first day in some ways. And they have a lot of readings. It's about, 200, 300, 400 pages, to read before you get into,
pages, not titles.
Pages.
Easy.
Yes.
It's an afternoon's work.
Sometimes it's difficult. There's one paper, I think, it's about 50 pages long, and it's really difficult. I mean, to really go through this paper, understand this paper, it's really difficult, and people sometimes read it, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times.
The instruction language is English.
Instruction language, everything is in English, starting from the application through the readings, and then there is a program. And the program is really, a big one, because it's a 4 month of work, and I will tell you how it's divided. And then we also offer one year of support, additional support for the people.
So following.
So if people get into the academy, they will get a program for 1.5 years. And then they will stay with us forever, because they will be part of the alumni network. And we organize different activities for the alumni. In terms of the 4 months, the first 4 months, it's divided into sessions. So the most important session is the first residential session. This year it's going to be longer than last year, and it's going to be about 7 days. And it's very, very intensive work. So people start at 7 a.m. and they finish at midnight every day. Very intense. And then they come home, and we have sessions in each month following. And then we'll have after 4 months, we have graduation. In this edition of the Academy, it will be on the 12th of January, 2018. But between the sessions, people enter, in between the sessions, an immersion program. And it's really powerful, and it's very intense, because people get exercises to do and as questions to reflect upon every day. Okay, the program is done in a way where where the participants can combine it fully with their work, so they can fully work, be back in their office, do whatever they need to do, but still on top of it they have the immersion program. And so it takes a lot of time for them, but eventually, once they graduate, they appreciate the program very much. Because it forces them somehow to do things they would have otherwise have never done.
We have a question from Rustam. If non-Polish citizens are allowed to apply to the program?
Yes. So the Academy is an open initiative for everyone. We want to make Poland, but also the world, a better place in some ways. But we do have some, we have limited resources. So we are able to offer about 40 fellowships to people. So everyone can apply from around the world. And then we'll see. Because of the limited resources, maybe depending on the candidate, because we have a structure, a decision-making process where always the best candidate wins. So only when we have two equally good candidates, we take decisions based on other reasons than the quality of the candidate. And one could be whether the person of a foreigner is based in Poland or not. We might have a little bit of preference of people who are based in Poland, even though they are not Polish. And we also take into account the diversity. So people have to realize we have a lot of good candidates, but once they apply, they don't actually compete for 40 places. They compete within their sectors. So, for example, if we have about 20% places for business people, it's only 8 spots.
We were talking about the sectors before. I found that really quite fascinating because
Yes.
you have made very precise distinctions
Yes.
of the sort of broad areas
Yes.
of activity that
Yes.
you're looking at. What are they?
Yes, I mean it's really unique in this sense. So we are looking for people from the non-profit sector, who are running non-profit organizations,
NGOs.
foundations, NGOs, people from business, people from startups, from culture, from the media, like journalists, and from sports. And we want to put all of them together in one place. And we really take care, we really look for diversity. So we want to have, at best, an equal percentage of people from each sector.
And they work together.
They work together.
Much interaction.
They work together. This is one of the unique features of the academy. People really report. I mean, we had magical moments where a person from business was listening to a person from a non-profit, and and was moved so deeply by the different type of knowledge, by the different type of sensitivity of that person, and vice versa. We had one person, I remember in the academy, she said, I always hated bankers. She was from non-profit. I hated bankers. This is so, I thought they were such bad people. And then she says it to a banker, and she said, but now when you say something, I see like gold coming out of your mouth, because I can learn so much from you. I can learn so much from you. So we look at the diversity. It's very important for us. It's something really powerful for people, and we are proud of it. I talk to people at Harvard, but also at Berkeley. They sometimes cannot do this, and you know why? Because of their financing structure. When they have an MBA program, they love to have people from the NGOs, but they do not have financing, and people from NGOs cannot afford. But we have a situation where everyone contributes the same. Okay, and it's
speaking of money. Where can people find the pecuniary details about the academy?
Yes, so it's simple. Basically, if you get into the academy, the only thing you have to pay is the registration. I can't remember exactly, but I think this year it will be a little bit bigger than last year, but it is a small amount. This is $150, $160. Okay, not really much. Why do we need this registration? There's an obvious reason. We want people who have been selected to really come in September and be there. So we assume if they pay, $100 or $150, not much, they will show up. Okay, and then this is the only obligation. At the end of the academy, we ask our participants to give a donation. And if they don't want to, they don't have to. Then, if they don't have the money, they don't have to. Okay, but it turned out that most people actually donated to the academy. Small amounts sometimes bigger, but this is a voluntary donation.
Marta, I hope that just answered your question. Now we have another one from Marta. I participated in a few international leadership programs. Do you think that the Leadership Academy for Poland will bring more value to my experience? How is the Academy different from other leadership programs?
Okay, so, it might not sound well if you say, too much good words about your own work.
Don't be modest.
Okay, we need to be humble. But I do believe that the academy is unique, and we have feedback also from Harvard professors. They came over, they came back to Harvard and they told their peers. They said it's something really new, it's something really unique, and now we have much easier for us to invite other people, and. I can tell you a story. We had a participant last year, a wonderful woman, And she said, look, before the academy, I did an executive education program, also a couple of months, couple of sessions at the Columbia Business School. And I paid $25,000 for it. And she said, but look, the academy brought to me, way more value than that program.
Diversity that contributes to this?
The diversity is an important part. The diversity is an important part, but also the content is a very important part, and the way of teaching. As I said at the beginning, we have very little intellectual discussions. There are some presentations, but there are basically no lecturing. We don't have talking heads. Our methodology, we call it 4D. We see things in 3D, okay, in 3 dimensions. We can't see in 4 dimensions. So what we're trying to do in the academy is for people to see the 4th dimension, okay? So if you talk about a phenomenon like a leadership or the responsibility or courage, in some ways what we're trying to do is to allow them to see those phenomena. I know it's difficult to explain, but this is what we do.
Well, yeah. Sounds fantastic, actually. If you've just tuned in, if you're on our page, over here, there is a box where you can send us questions. If you've tuned into the transmission on our Facebook page, you can, down here somewhere, send us a comment, and we'll get it up here on the screen with a bit of luck. Wow, Anonymous has sent us a comment. Okay. Does this mean we have to put in a funny mask to answer? I will read that in a minute. What I find particularly interesting about the description that you've just given,
yes,
and the fact that you're working with these distinctly different areas of endeavor, and they get to mix, and they get to cross-pollinate ideas. I'm in the ideas business. This is hugely exciting. This is something that is missing from really most business education. I recall with some pain a friend of mine who is a lecturer at one of the business schools in town here, not yours, telling me about 4 years ago, he asked third-year students, I think it was, what was the essence, the purpose of business? And to a man and woman, they returned the answer to maximize profits.
Yes.
No responsibility for things other than the spreadsheet.
Yes.
No stewardship of the environment.
Yes.
No intelligent relation with the staff. All those things were missing. I could write a list of 20, 30 things that were missing that we could come up with in a conversation quite easily. Yet, after 3 years of business education, supposedly really high-grade business education, these people had, it was like they had a leg and an arm missing. They weren't complete persons.
Yes.
Given what we were talking about before we actually went on air, and philosophy and wisdom, which you mentioned, how lofty are your aspirations for those people? How far do you want to push them towards becoming complete leaders, for want of a better description?
Yes. There are so many things, interesting things in what you have said. I'd like to pick up on some of them.
Please
and
do.
Answer, of course, your question, how far we want to go with the people. But I also want to touch upon the money issue in general about business. I do believe money is important. In today's world, it's going to be difficult for you to create something big and something new without money. The problem is, the key problem is where the money is located, okay? If it's in the foreground, the primary goal, and that's the problem, or and this is how we believe, how we look at these things, is the money is the feedback that you get from the world for the work that you have done.
If you did okay, you get paid.
If you did okay, if you created value for the people, and they appreciate, okay, then you get the feedback from the world. So the money is not, you know, I can see in our organization, you know, money is not, we're not really doing this for money. You know, I'm not interested in money, but I would like to have a lot of money so that I can offer more fellowships, that I can help more people, that I can, you know, create more world-class education in Poland. Okay, so it's important where the money is, and I think it's important for every business, and it's important for every human being, because it defines our relationship not only to the business but also to life. This is it. As in terms of the people, you know, how far we want to go. So in the academy, we want to take good people and help them be a little bit better, you know. And I don't know how far we can go. You know, we have to also be humble. We cannot change everything from 0 to 1. Okay, but you know, but we want to push as much as possible, and eventually we'll see in the future how it works.
Anonymous, hello, Anonymous. I hope you're wearing your mask. Is asking a really, really key question.
Yes.
How have previous fellows?
Yes.
How have they fit in this intense workload into already, one assumes, busy lives? How do they juggle?
Yes. So the question precisely, as I see, is, you know, I work full time, and will I be able to combine the academy with the work? So my answer is yes, definitely yes. We had people from business that work full time in a consulting company. You know how hard they work. They work for 12 or 14 hours. This person was from the consulting company first. Second, a week before the academy, his second child was born. You know, so it was really an intensive time for him professionally and privately. And he was able to combine it with the academy. But what it demands is commitment. Commitment. So you need to be committed. If you are committed, you will take this workload on top of everything that you have. In the design of the academy, in terms of time and in terms of technicalities, allows you to combine your work. The logistics, it's completely compatible with the, you know, full-time work. But you need commitment, because on top of everything that you have to put the academy on. But at the end, you know, as I said, people were very, very happy.
We have a question from Łukasz, which we actually addressed at the beginning of the session. So maybe I will just quickly read the question, whether or not. Mr. Producer, would you mind? Thank you so much. You're doing so well. The Center for Leadership aims at contributing to good leadership in Poland. Does that mean the Academy is focused on leadership in the context of public social engagement, or does it take leadership from a broader perspective? And as far as I understand, you are in the process of redefining what it means to be a leader. But maybe picking up on this thread, what sort of further engagement, other than within their own disciplines, if you like, have you noticed among the fellows who have been through the program already?
After the academy.
After the academy.
Okay.
What else have they done in addition to all the other stuff they were already doing?
Okay. I can tell you about 2 stories. Okay, and they are completely different. One story is this, that one person who had her own organization, during the academy, she decided to stop everything that she has done so far. And it was one of the most difficult decisions in her life. Okay, so the academy produces breakthroughs like this. So people, we create space for reflections for people to reconsider a lot of things, including what they do. So in her case, he totally closed all operations, but not just to disengage, you know, but to create on this, to create something new that will be more impactful and more engaged and done in a better way. Okay, and we cross fingers for her. On the other hand, we had a person from business. And for her, and it's an important part also in the academy, because what we help people to do is to discover their purpose somehow. And for example, she discovered...
Now we're getting to the real kernel
yes,
of it.
Yes,
Okay, yeah.
And she discovered, that what is really, and it's important for many people, but for her, she discovered that what's really important is to support women and women engagement in a public and business life.
In a very broad sense.
Yes, and what she also understood, and this is what Academy produces, is that she does not have to change her work to do this. She realized that at her work, in very intense business, she's able to actually she has a lot of resources to help other women in a way she'd love to. So you see, so basically the academy, I think, creates a stronger engagement with the reality, a stronger need to contribute. Okay, and on all spheres, not only in public but also business, and private. So it's about a general relationship to the world that I'm living in some ways. And what is the result for each person depends. One person closes the operation to build something new. The other person, realizes that there's so much she can do at her work and that she didn't see before. And it's both stories are wonderful, I think.
The very close relationship between the definition, or rather the definition of leadership containing purpose, I think, is something that is key in this, isn't it?
Yes.
Without purpose, you can't have leadership.
Yes.
You have authority, perhaps, but where are you going? You don't know.
Yes. So Benjamin Franklin once said, it's good to be a person that can deliver on goals, that you have vision in realizing goals, but it's also good to know what are the good goals, and it's a different, knowledge in some ways. But yeah, purpose is very, very important. A purpose for an organization is a mission. And why is it important? Because a mission is not only a business goal, but also a moral goal. And it has so many repercussions because it defines business itself, but also it has a lot of impact on motivation on people. So think about Elon Musk. Elon Musk is kind of, when you listen to him, he seems to be very kind of a little bit boring, slow talking, quiet, calm. But what you see in his talking is that he really wants to, shoot people to Mars.
Well, it's concentrated purpose.
Yes, it's a concentrated purpose, and it's a business goal in some ways, but it's foremost a moral goal. Okay, I want to save humanity. This is how he understands. You might disagree or agree with it. Okay, but there's a moral goal. Behind that, there's a business goal that he wants to realize. Why is it important? Because he has in some ways clarity of what he really wants to achieve, and because of this clarity, he can engage his energy and the energy of his people, in a most efficient way. If you don't have that clarity, you engage many different things in life, and after 10 years, you end up asking yourself, what have I done?
Yes.
Okay.
What has been the sum of my activity?
Yes. Yeah. It's related also to innovation. You are a better expert than me in innovation. But when you think about innovation, what creates innovation? First of all, the first realization is that it is usually a group effort. So what you have to do something to make sure something that the group of people will be highly motivated to do something new. Okay, how do you do that? You can probably tell me more, but one of the important things is a purpose. Because it's and a clarity about it.
Well, the purpose really, as many leaders have demonstrated, is probably the biggest thing that needs to be defined at the beginning of any kind of innovative process.
Yes.
Way over the horizon.
Yes.
It needs to be clear.
Yes.
But it's not so clear as to be absolutely established in bullet point form, because then it's an action plan, it's not a purpose.
Yes. Yes.
and it needs to be hugely ambitious.
Yes.
And it's actually really interesting that you mentioned Musk, because he comes to mind as an archetypal leader.
Yes.
But my understanding of the processes of innovation actually is such that it calls for not just the archetypal Elon Musk, who, on seeing the rocket explode, calmly says to his people that, well, we'll basically have to get on and make sure that the next one doesn't.
Yes.
But within the organization, there need to be leaders who are not high profile, outside of the organization necessarily, but who are hugely important within their teams, who take on this thing that we were talking about before, responsibility,
Yes.
and grab this idea, the purpose way over the horizon,
Yes.
and somehow by force of personality and engagement and example,
Yes.
lead
Yes.
their peers within their team
Yes.
in the general direction. The thing about innovation, of course, is that you have a general idea of where you're going. You will make up the tools of how you get there on the way.
Yes.
In today's world, these tools don't necessarily exist yet.
Yes.
Or if they do, they are in some scientist's lab and they need to be found
Yes.
and used in the right way within the context. But leadership, in terms of the two kinds of leadership, of the great high-profile leader, who is actually easy to define. You take Branson, Musk, any number of them. But then there is this other kind of leadership, which is far more difficult to define unless you start to think about it deeply. And if you think about it deeply, then it can actually create a job description for a leader. And it can be written down. It's down to 20, 30 points of what the leader does, how they do it within the context of their team. The fascinating thing is, of course, that job descriptions keep changing all the time. And job descriptions within the context of the ever-changing and speeding up, change out there in the world need to change as well. So we can't have job descriptions that we've had for the last 25 years because they are irrelevant. We need to come up with new job descriptions, and we do. We come up with new jobs all the time. What's a Scrum Master? Who knows what a Scrum Master is? It actually has nothing to do with rugby. It's a job description of a person who fulfills a particular role within a software team. So we need to come up with new names for the new jobs that will help organizations actually move forward within the context of such quickly shifting technology, and create opportunities for people to develop their leadership skills, not necessarily on a grand scale, but within their own organizations. And that, I think, is key to those organizations first surviving and then succeeding going forward. It's not just the grand leader at the top of the pile, because that's not enough.
Yes. Yes. So, when you, as an organization, there's certain things or more or less know, we call it technical work. But, on the frontier, when you face reality and the changing for reality, you don't know what's really the solution to the problems that you are facing. And it's really dangerous to assume that there's one person that will have all the answers.
Not only that,
yes.
Half the time you actually don't know what the problems are,
yes.
or will be.
Yes. So what you do then is to create a context for people in which they come up as an organization with answers to the problems in some ways. And purpose is very important in that sense because it orientates you. it tells you in some ways in what way and how you should solve that problem to do whatever you really want to do. Okay, but we can discuss about it probably.
We'll talk about this next time, because this is a whole long conversation that we can have. In the meantime, a really interesting question, because excuse me, you've mentioned board members and CEOs and people who run organizations as being the fellows in the past. The question from Facebook. Hello, Facebook. Interesting name. What are your chances if you are not yet a high-profile leader, like a partner, director, board member?
Okay, so in the academy, we had people that held authority positions, like country managers, for example. But we had also people who were activists, did not have or did not run any organizations.
They had 20 friends and a big idea.
Yes. So what we are really looking to is people who have demonstrated already that they have done something successfully in some ways, irrespectively of the context in which they operated. This is first. And second, we are looking for people who have in some ways good heart and want to engage,
want to contribute,
to the reality. We ask about their past, what have you done, before, and we ask them also about the future. What are you up to? What you want to do. Now, having said that, I do want to say that we in the last edition, and this was also a surprise, not maybe surprise, but something that we realized is that we did like people that had some management experience. Because this is kind of, we do discuss sometimes management problems in the academy. And it's important to have some experience in it, to go through difficulties somehow of managing people or organizations. Okay, but this is not a formal requirement.
You mentioned towards the beginning of our conversation that one of your early fellows was a physicist.
Yes.
From the Polish Academy of Sciences. We have a question which actually follows on from that thread, and that is again from Facebook. I would also love to learn the answer to or about. Here we go. I'd like to learn about the possibility for academics to join the program.
Yes.
Properly trained leaders are needed in higher education.
So it's a wonderful story. So first of all, we welcome people from academia. This is the other sector that we want, and we really want them. And one of our nominating partners is the Foundation for Polish Science. And last time we had people from the academia, one professor, one person who did habilitation just recently. Wonderful people, So you are mostly welcome, and we do want people from academia. In particular, not only those that are interested in research itself, it's okay, but we also want those in particular who would like to reform, a little bit the university system that we have in Poland, that we want to contribute. I remember one of the persons that got to the academy, he wrote in his application, I want to become a rector of the Polytechnic, Warsaw Polytechnic, just to, reform it totally. And I loved it so much. And he was a wonderful person. By the way, after the academy, as his final paper, because they have to do the final paper, he created a workshop for people to see the fourth dimension of things. And this was inspiration from the academy, So yes, so we invite people from academia and we want them.
Are those papers shared? Are they?
No, papers. The final papers that the fellows have to write, they are very personal. So, and it is actually very important in the academy. It's a safe space. So, confidentiality is very important. So we don't share that information. We don't share anything that they write. It's only between them and the educators.
So if they wish to publish them, they may, but not by design.
Yes, and one fellow published her paper, and it was a wonderful paper, but most of them keep it private, and it's okay too.
So we won't find any of them necessarily on ResearchGate or any of those?
We'll see. Maybe we'll see. We'll have more.
Possibly.
Yeah, if you have people from academia.
If someone is...
But by the way, it was interesting because this diversity is interesting. I remember the first day of the academy, and you could see already the first day of the academy the different way of thinking of different people. So we had a lecture where I used a term, this source of courage. So, and everyone was just listening to it, and this professor from the academy, a young professor, and he raised his hand and said, "How do you define source?" Okay, and then there was discussion around this. So this is beautiful to have people from those different sectors.
Academic hair splitting at its best. It's beautiful.
Yes, but it's beautiful, really.
Picking up on the idea of diversity and a question which we just received, if someone is active in several domains,
yes,
is this a plus or is this a minus?
Yes,
or is it irrelevant?
It's a plus, I think. And we had fellows that are active in many different sectors. At the end, you have to decide which is the primary sector for you. Okay, whether you apply as a person from
non-profit
you have a set number
yes,
because
sector.
In the application form we simply ask what sectors are you coming from. So you just have to decide what's primary for you.
I have no hope. I think I have 10 seconds. Never mind. A couple of questions about the webinar. Yes, it is being recorded, and we will publish it on our website in due course. I suspect, Mr. Producer, participants they get email messages as to where to find the recordings. Yes, great, and I just answered the other question too. Insight into higher education. Good God, no, we'll skip that one. That's too broad. Isn't it?
It's a lot. It's a very important question, but
it's a hugely important question, and this is actually what you're trying to address by being. How does this program compare to established academic leadership programs? Harvard.
So I'm sorry again. I don't want to. I'm a humble person, but I also believe. Aristotle once said about a justified pride. It's good to be proud if it's justified somehow. And I think I can truly say that we have created one of the world's best leadership programs. If this program was in Harvard, I'm sure there would be articles in New York Times about it, because this was truly unique, and the people from Harvard, the professors that came with a vast experience, and one of the top in the world, that it's so difficult, to invite them.
How do they find the time? I mean, that's.
Yes, so of course
they have to want to come here, so they obviously think it's a good thing.
They want to come. Of course, we have to also pay them, okay, and
therefore. But they get paid anyway. So
yes, but still, the most important is the end result. We have now a very good relationship with them, and they are willing to come back. They are willing to come back, and they also tell other people at Harvard, but also other universities, that this is something new. Yes. What from their perspective, what's new is that apart from the diversity of people, what we've done is that we meshed several approaches to leadership developments, approaches that usually are taught apart. So, for example, if you go to Harvard Business School, you have case studies, business case studies. But if you go to the Harvard Kennedy School, which is for government school, yes. You almost don't have, there is no case studies,
which
in a leadership,
think would be
in the leadership,
basic.
In the leadership class. Yeah. Then you have also a thread or strand about personal development. And those different approaches to leadership development, they usually are taught separately. And what we've done is to put them together. And I think this is something unique. When before the academy, Opera Narodowa, so National Opera, a national theater, is our partner. And I talked to the director of the National Opera, and he said, "Do you know what opera means?"
Yeah,
he says,
it's a web browser. It comes from Sweden or Norway or something, doesn't it?
yes. So he says it means I don't know how to say it now in English. Dzieło. It's
it's not work with a small w. It's work with
yes,
big W.
Yes, it's work with
capital
big W.
Work.
Yes, it's like the top of the mountain where you have all the different elements from culture.
Opus.
You know, opus in one place. Like, you know, a dance and singing and orchestra and all of this together, right? So this is something what we are doing in the academy.
Are you finding that you are now the inspiration for others in other countries and other regions to look at creating similar programs, or not quite yet?
So I can't say it now because for the time being, you know, not that many people know what's inside. You know, we had 40 participants in the first edition. We will have
good news
14
travels fast,
next.
you know.
But we're gaining credibility, and it's good. It's nice, but we are not focused on it. Okay, so we're not looking really for fame. It's interesting also when you recruitment process when you're doing. You know, we are trying to make some ads, but we don't want to promote the academy for the promotion, for the sake of promotion. You know, we just want to reach to the best people. You know, this is how we operate.
And they come organically, by word of mouth. How do people find out about it?
So it's different. Sometimes word of mouth, and it's particularly now it's strong. But also we really try to reach them. You know, we reach out to them through Facebook, through social media, but also newspapers.
Very well.
Yeah.
Very well.
And people like you're an ambassador.
Well, it's hard not to be excited by high quality thinking by good people.
Yes.
It's the water I swim in, so it's a natural environment, and I do love what you're doing. We have to be wrapping up. Mr. Producer is waving somewhat feverishly in our direction. So thank you very much for your attention once again. If I might be so bold as to flash a card at you. This is the Twitter handle for the Leaders Academy. You can find me at Ralph Talmont. We are happy to engage in ongoing conversations.
Can you spell that Twitter handle? Because the sun is...
oh dear. Okay, hang on a minute. How is this? At C4L_org. That should work, shouldn't it? You got it? You guys got it? Wave. I think they waved. Thank you so much for your attention and your time. And Cezary, we will do this again.
Hopefully.
Soon.
Yes.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Me too. I'd like to also thank you for being with us. We encourage you to apply, be with us. Remember that we'll not be able to take everyone, but we respect your work, we respect you, and we hope to see you with us. Thank you.
And you're building a community around this whole thing, aren't you?
Yes, we put now a lot of effort this year to build the network, which is alive. We are looking into different organizations around the world who are able really to create an alive and active networks, and we are learning from them to create it here. And the intention is to really make it a lively network. And it actually, I believe that will create one of the strongest and also the most unique professional networks in Poland. The reason is the quality of people who are applying, but the second reason is the diversity. You know, people do network in the business, sometimes in NGOs, but to have a network of people from many different sectors, it's really unique.
You have multiplication signs between the people,
exactly.
Rather than just pluses.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will see you again soon,
Yes,
and we will see you guys too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.